so much. As people are kind of jumping in here, we'll go ahead and get started. I know you've been doing this all day, so our last session of the day. Thank you so much, and thank you to our incredible speakers that have dedicated time and resources to be here as well. So we're excited for Joy and Jay. A few just kind of reminders. Please mute yourself just to make sure that we have good sound quality for our recordings, and the recordings will later be put on YouTube in case you missed anything. If you have questions or comments, you can raise your hand or unmute yourself, interrupt, and you can also type questions in the chat section as well. We also will be giving away a $25 gift card at the end of this session. So a little hint, if you'd like to have more chances to win, ask questions, comment, interact, and I'm going to use a random generator, but you'll get additional entries when you participate. And then just remember to take the survey at the end too, because we have a grand prize giveaway. So on that note, I think I can go ahead and turn things over to Jay and Joy. Thank you so much, everybody, and I'll go on mute for now as well.
Awesome.
Thank you, Kate.
I am apparently sharing my screen, so just a moment as I pull that up.
Oh, yep, you're good.
And I don't know if anyone got my reference or if everyone just thinks I'm randomly having an owl hold a bat, but there it is. All right.
Yes. So just the backstory, that is like a circa 1972, 3-ish ceramic owl, and his name is Winooski. He used to be my grandparents, but she was going to throw him away. So he has followed me to all my houses since I was very, very young. So he's my office buddy.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. All right. I don't have nearly as good a story as that, so I'm just going to move right in. Welcome.
We can't always.
Welcome to our session, How to Win Friends and Solve Business Problems. My name is Jay Leask, and I am joined by the significantly smarter, significantly more entertaining Joy Apple. Joy, thank you.
Hello.
I saw this link up there and thought, we should make sure everybody does provide their feedback.
Yes.
If you aren't a community speaker, this kind of feedback for both the community organizers and the speakers is how we get better at our trade, or how we determine to just what we can ignore. But no, really, it's how we get better at our trade, at what we share. It's how we know if these sessions actually provide value, unless you just tell us in the chat how great it is. So please do provide feedback, and we hope to hear from you. Joy, would you like to introduce yourself and provide insight into who you are?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Joy Apple. If we have never met virtually or in person before, thank you so much for being here. Great to meet you. I am, what am I? I'm a Microsoft MVP, a modern work strategist, and chief of operations for an M365 consulting company called Pate Group. I've been working with Microsoft products and technologies. I realized I had not updated my bio slides for a while. Like, I had like 12 years, and oh no, it's going to be ticking up to 15 years soon when I had to break out my fingers and toes to do that math. So about almost 15 years now. And I have to say, this is the most exciting time to be working in this industry with these tools. The things we can do now with Microsoft 365, amazing. So glad you're here, because we're going to be talking about ways to leverage these exciting tools to get information to work with the business. Jay, who are you? What do you do, and why are you here?
My name is Jay Leask. I am a recent MVP. I am the Director of Strategic Accounts and Federal Strategy for AvePoint Public Sector. AvePoint is a Microsoft ISV, and so we have software that supports the Microsoft stack, and it's been a great position for me primarily from a technical perspective, as it gave me an opportunity to talk about Microsoft a lot while also making money selling software. But I really enjoy working with Microsoft Space. I have to agree with you, but with a slightly more anxious twist in that it's an amazing time to be in this space because of how much is changing and how quickly it is changing. And frankly, that is why this conversation is so important, because if you want people to adopt the technology you are spending so much money purchasing and deploying, you have to actually win friends as part of this conversation, even if you don't want to go to happy hour with them, because otherwise you're not going to solve business problems.
But you should always accept the opportunity to go to happy hour. I'm just saying.
Sure. I mean, I will, but I'm an extrovert, so
Okay. That's true. That's true. I see Michelle agrees. Yes. Yes. Always happy hour. Yes.
Oh, and Benjamin, I see you telling us to check the pinned message, but I don't see a pinned message in my chat, which is disappointing. So if it's important, please repost it for me. All right. So Joy, I don't know if you were going to say this, but I'm going to say this. Joy and I present together a lot. We talk about flat architecture, very technical discussion. This is a new one for us. So please bear with us, because none of the notes say who is talking about what slide.
Well, and it's fun because we were spitballing for something else entirely. And we started talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you wish users would leave us alone, or why do we have to answer all these questions? It's so hard to get really good requirements. These tools can do so much. And Jay said, this is a session. I think you were the one that said it. I was like, well,
I think I was, and thank you for that.
session. So yeah, I'll get credit where it's due sometimes. I mean, so that's what we're here to talk about, because it's a different world. And sometimes, if this is not you in the picture, and I've worked with a lot of people, and some days this is me as well, the perception is at least there. And the new IT has work to do to erase the perception that IT is unapproachable, that doesn't care, and we just sit on our little g God thrones, deploy the tools, and you just use them. Just do what we tell you to do. So there's work to be done.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And to better understand a little bit about you all while we talk about this, if you wouldn't mind, quick snapshot of, well, scan the QR code and tell us a little bit about yourself. It's 3 questions, just trying to understand your roles and your approach to working with either IT or the business. So the first question is telling us, are you IT or are you business? And feel free to also just throw in the chat your thoughts as we go through all of this. But we want to know a little bit more about you, because it'll help us tell the story as we go through this.
We got a response. Okay, I'm going to keep refreshing here, and then I'll put the screenshot in chat, I hope, of what we got. If not, then I'll put it in chat to Jay, and Jay will change his screen and show it. So we have technology. We can totally do this.
So while we're waiting for a few more responses, the first question that we really need to talk about is, why did these old days go away? Why do we actually have to talk to IT? And really, it's the idea that we used to just deploy technology and kind of pray it worked. It doesn't work. We've seen that it doesn't work, and it's something that Joy, you mentioned 15 years. My beard's got about 5.5 more than you, and that's what we did. I know that's what we did because that's what I was taught to do. I was taught to get the project done, get it out the door, and then move on to the next project. And what we've seen, for those of you who have been around the SharePoint space for some time, perhaps, you've seen that the tool that you spent so much time putting out there is not just not working and not solving the problem, but hated by the end users so often.
Yep. Well, when I started in IT, I started on the help desk.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, if you've never done a tour of duty on the help desk, maybe go sit with your help desk people sometime. It's a valuable learning experience. But I inherited a 2007 farm, go Moss, and we had sites that were overused. Like, view threshold limits were just maxed out. They were messy, and it was crazy because IT sent a link in an email. Click it. What is this? Oh, this is a thing. Oh, we don't have to put things on the file share anymore. We can use this. So it started being used like a file share.
Mm-hmm.
Or they were ghost towns. They were not used at all because IT sent a link in an email and people opened it up and went, "What's this?" I don't know.
Yeah.
Never touched it. Deploy
Yep.
and go.
And so what we ended up is with these systems that were, poorly used, SharePoint sprawl being one of my favorite words. AvePoint sells a governance tool, and one of the things we talk about all the time is the sprawl, the SharePoint sprawl. But with that also is, Andrea, with that also is that the loss of what is actually there. There is so much, there are so much in the way of getting to the actual information you need. You can't find what you're looking for. And then, of course, that bottom row, they kind of work together. You either get official tools that are duplicate. My favorite being organizations that have both Dropbox and SharePoint, or Zoom and Teams, or you end up with unofficial tools, which is even worse because these are tools that you have no control over, and tools where there is no ability to ensure you have your data protected.
I have a story, Jay.
Tell me.
On site with a customer, and the customer told a story that Dropbox once called their network guy and said, "Hey, we see that you all have a lot of accounts with us. It would be a lot cheaper if you would just get like a corporate account." And they were like, "We don't use Dropbox." And they were like, "Whoa, but your people do."
Mm-hmm.
There's no data loss prevention around that, right? There's no way to know what people are doing with that information at all. It's outside the control of you now. Whereas, right, if we talk and go, "Hey, did you know all the stuff you're doing on Dropbox right now?" We can do that with the tool sets that we already have.
Yep. Yeah, I remember when I was at Booz Allen Hamilton, which is a federal systems integrator, we were looking at social networking. Enterprise social networking was all the rage. It was going to get rid of email, which clearly it did so well. And so we were looking at these different ESN tools, and we ended up going with Yammer, which most people here probably know because Yammer is a Microsoft tool set, but at the time it was not. And one of the reasons we went with Yammer over some of its competitors, which actually had far superior technology, or capabilities, we'll say capabilities, is because of our 25,000 employees, 2,500, 10% were active in the free version of Yammer using their Booz Allen email addresses. So just thinking about the amount of conversations that were happening about business, about client work in an environment that had no control, no data protection at all. And so, yeah, so it's super important to make sure that you are providing capabilities that actually mean something, because otherwise you end up with situations like this. So Joy, why is the business so difficult?
Why is it difficult? Probably because, well, let me go back and look at our poll results real quick, see how
Oh
many
yeah.
people I may potentially insult real quick. I see one person that has identified as being with the business. So bear with me because what I'm saying is from the IT perspective. IT has work to do here as well with changing their perspective of the business, just like they need to work on how they're perceived themselves by the business. But from the IT perspective, we tend to think, oh my gosh, all you have to do is Google to figure this stuff out. So obviously, they're not willing to figure it out. So they're going to come to us to fix it. Right. That's a perception that needs to get fixed. One of my colleagues identifies herself as a professional Googler
Hmm.
because a lot of times this one weird problem comes. She's like, oh, let me go see if other people are having this problem. Right. We're not all wired to do that. And technically, we are, right? IT is wired to go figure that stuff out into research, and we want to dig into it. What's another reason why it's so difficult? Well, the business speaks a very different language. I live in fear of having to sit down and work with the finance department because the finance department has a very different personality and they speak a very different language than I do,
Hmm.
right? But we can sit down and figure it out. But things do get lost in translation. Sometimes we do get those fun little things of like, but when I sit down, I want my computer, when it sees that it's me, to know to automatically start up all these applications. Okay, we can do that for you, but not on Wednesday. On Wednesday, I don't want my email to open. I don't know if I can figure that out for you, right? We get a little intimidated by the bizarre things that the business comes up with. So, one of the best ways for us to kind of work through that is to get to those root causes of why we feel the business is so difficult to work with, why they feel we're unapproachable, and get to those root causes of what causes them to go rogue. Jay, that was your cue to advance the slide.
I'm very sorry. My mouse stopped working. There we go. Okay. So why that was a beautiful cue, by the way. So why do people go rogue? They go rogue because tools don't meet their needs. They don't do what they need them to do. You may have given me SharePoint, and it may be an incredibly powerful tool, but I need a tool which I can share content with people outside of my environment very easily. And SharePoint doesn't do that. Well,
Mhm.
maybe it can, but you just threw SharePoint over the wall and said go. So if it can, I don't know how, or maybe you've disabled it. They don't know what tools are available. Like I said, if you remember the old days when we did just throw SharePoint over the wall, we aren't telling people what can it actually accomplish. What is the power behind this tool? Um, uh, Joy, you mentioned a little bit on the bad relationships between IT and business. If IT is inapproachable, if every time someone comes to someone in IT and says, "Hey, Peter, how do I do this in SharePoint?" And Peter's response is a big heavy sigh, and then 30 seconds about teaching him how to Google, and then a dismissive wave. Well, they're going to stop coming to IT. They're going to go rogue. They're going to do it their way, or they're going to hear from a friend that they do something over there, and that's what's going to happen.
Mhm.
Um, and then also, like, we used to do what's called waterfall projects. We would start with some requirements analysis, and then we would do some more requirements analysis, and then we would analyze the requirements analysis. And then we would start development on a very large project. And then 2 or 3 years later, we might deploy the first phase of our project.
Mhm.
And if I'm most of you are probably nodding your head with me. And frankly, even big software developers have learned that doesn't work. That's one of the big reasons why Microsoft is a SaaS product now, not an installable download every 3 years. That lack of deploying capabilities, that slow response time, is going to make you lose customers, whether they're internal business or they're totally different companies. Sorry.
Well, Benjamin brought up a good point, and we're tracking. That's about where we're going to be turning.
Mm-hmm.
Show people the wonders of things because they don't know how it works, because that's our job. Our job is
Yes.
to know how these things work. So they get this, oh, well, IT can't do it. They're too busy. They don't want to talk to us anyway. So they're just going to go find their own tool.
Yep. And Jake, Benjamin, you posted that in response to Jake, and I forgot I meant to come back to this, is if you are trying to roll something out with new capabilities, that you're not going to just train people. You're going to do a webinar and walk away. That's not going to convince people that they should be using your new tool. You're not just going to give them swag, although I love my new Yeti. You're not going to just install the technology. You have to help them see value, and you have to help them see value in their language. If you don't do these things, you're not going to get support. And then, yeah, occasionally you will have to get senior leadership to come down and say, this is how we're doing it. Oh, the chat.
That wins. That wins.
So there's a number of things, and we'll try to continue to talk to this as we go through. But it is more than just giving them a technology. It is making sure that what they are getting, they perceive as valuable, not just change for change's sake.
Yep. So it just starts to, and we'll touch on this very quickly because I feel we're all on the same page. If we don't communicate, right? If we don't take time to make sure things aren't translated appropriately, shadow IT doesn't go away. Security doesn't get tightened up. Remember, security and usability have to go hand in hand, right? That's very important. And that's part of why it's important to talk. What do you need? How does it need to work?
Yes.
It's very important to continue those conversations. So we've talked about our problems. We got some problems. I got 98 problems. SharePoint Teams ain't 2 of them. Let's keep going. I lost Jay.
Oh no. So Joy and I were sitting here talking about this, and and she said, this is IT. This is IT as a service. And really, like, the more we started talking about it, the more we realized, like, this is not a new concept. This is something that exists today. This is something that is fairly well defined too, about how to change your model from just throwing technology out there to providing a service to your users, to your business, to your organization. So you have to look at it and say, okay, what roles do we need to be successful? One of my favorite conversations. So I mentioned I do mostly federal work. I was doing a workshop with an organization that was looking at rolling out Teams in the next 12 months. This was about 3 years ago, and we went through this whole day about change management and about technology and about requirements and use cases. And at the end of the day, the CTO came up to me and I said, so, what's your number one takeaway today? And he said, well, and I'm sure this is a phrase that is new to nobody in this room. He said, we have been told that we have to do more with less for so long that we have now gotten rid of all of our business analysts, which is, from a cost perspective, fine, but they had no touch with the business to actually understand what they needed. So their job was purely roll out technology. And where the technologists had time to learn the new tools and to explain business and to perform training, they were trying to, but they had no one out there who was listening to the business saying, what are your needs, and translating that into technical requirements that could be deployed. And this is exactly, what was missing in this organization that he realized was the fact that they had no ability to really get down with the business and understand what they needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to read comments. Now you talk.
Okay, fair enough. So the point of talking to the business, right? Why? We know what's best, so we're just going to roll them out. That's true to a degree, but we know what's best. We just know what's approved, and we know the proper procedures for people, but we don't really know the struggle that the business is going through. We don't really understand why they're asking for Dropbox when they have OneDrive and SharePoint. We don't understand why they keep wanting to bring Zoom in. We got Teams. We've been using Teams forever. So why can't you just keep using Teams? Like, what's missing? And if we don't spend the time to ask the question, we're never going to get an answer. We're just going to get more questions.
Yep.
And the flip side of that coin.
Oh, sorry, that was my cue. The flip side of that coin is from the business perspective. Like, why do I care about IT? They don't give me tools that I need. They just roll out the next version of email. I'm not even going to call it by its real name because I'm business now. They just roll out the next version of email and tell me too bad. They moved my file menu and they gave me this thing called a ribbon that I don't understand. They took away my file shares and they make me go to this website now to upload files, but why? They roll this stuff out. They don't ask me about my needs. And they talk down to me very condescendingly, which is not because I'm in sales, I'm sure. So yeah, again, from the business perspective, why should we be talking to IT? But really, if I'm not telling IT what my problems are, whether they're asking or not, can I possibly expect them to actually solve them? If I'm not telling IT why it's important for me to share with the outside, should I be surprised that they've locked our ability down to have guests in our tenant? If I'm not explaining how it's mission critical for me to be able to work with my contractors, how can I expect them to give my contractors access to the system that all this information is in? So,
but what if we told you, Morpheus, I'm going to become Morpheus now. What if I told you, right? That if we break down those walls and get rid of some of those, I hope, misconceptions, we can meet the requirements that the business has, reduce some of the back and forth, reduce the pain that the help desk is feeling with all the tickets that are coming, keep the business from going rogue because we're hearing and understanding and listening. So we're providing them with what they need. What if we gather requirements? We do this thing called a use case. We're coming to that in a minute. And we really get there with the business. This is the fun part. I'm excited now. Let's go.
So how do we do this, right? So the first thing, what? What? You were talking under your breath at me. What did I do wrong?
I said, how do we do it, Jay?
Oh, I'm sorry. So the first thing we need clearly is a requirement, right? We need to know what they want or what they need. The clear word being need, of course. We need to know what is essential for them to be successful. So let's talk about requirements for a minute.
Here comes the work part of the workshop.
So work part number one, Joy, you're our business. So tell us, Joy, what is your requirement?
Dear IT, my life is crazy since we transitioned to the hybrid work model, and I need a way to go out of office very fast during emergencies.
All right. All right. So I'll go first just to give everybody in the room a chance to raise their hand or unmute or start typing in the chat, because I will sit here quietly until we get people to participate, which should be hard because the chat hasn't been amazing already. So Joy, I'd like to introduce you to this feature called Out of Office in Outlook. You turn this on, and you're done. Problem solved.
I can't always get to my Outlook super fast because I might be in the car with my kid taking them, to the doctor.
Mm.
And I still have to call people and let them know I can't make meetings. I need it to be easier than that.
Okay. All right. So now I'm going to turn to everybody in the room. You are welcome to unmute. You are welcome to hit up chat. What questions as IT do you have for Joy?
Now they go quiet.
Right? They have been talking so fast I can't read all the comments, and now they go quiet. Ooh, Joy, there's a question in the room, Joy. Do you have Outlook app on your phone?
Well, yeah, I check my email on it all the time.
All right. So Shannon, it looks like we might have a potential solution there. Feel free to dig deeper, or if anyone else has other clarifying questions they'd like to ask or instructions.
And what's fun, this is actually based on a real story that Jay has.
I do. But I don't want to tell him yet.
No, it's too soon. And again, like I know I can go to Outlook and I can set up my out of office message and everything, but I still got a ton of stuff that's just not done by doing that.
Mm. Shannon, you went off mute.
There I am. Well, you're just being difficult, Joy. Have you ever looked at the settings?
Welcome to my world.
Have you ever glanced through the settings? That little gear icon?
Yeah, I've done that once or twice because I know I have to click it and set up the automatic replies.
You can set it up ahead of time.
Mm.
Have that
But
preset.
this is an emergency. I don't know ahead of time.
Well, but you know now you might have an emergency.
Right now I have an emergency and I need all my meetings to get rescheduled or canceled, and I need everybody on my team to know that I'm out of office. Right now.
Well, then you're being difficult. I don't know how to put that. I would say
Shannon is officially IT.
I would say you're taking more time talking to me right now than you are to just that you're out of office.
All right.
You know what I feel with, Joy.
Oh, I do.
Okay.
Shannon, thank you so much for playing along. So what did we talk about here a little bit? Joy gave us a requirement and we provided her a solution. A very valid solution, by the way, and I didn't even think about that, to be honest.
Extremely valid, because when you set up your out of office, it does give you a box to check that cancels all of your meetings during that period of time and declines any new ones that come in. So Shannon's absolutely on the right track here. Jay, do you want to talk about the?
Yeah. So the thing that I will say to your response, Shannon, is while you absolutely answered the requirement Joy gave you, the problem with business as an IT person is they don't always tell us everything we need to know. So I don't recommend, Joy doesn't recommend, we don't recommend requirements as your guide. We recommend use cases.
Yep.
Because a use case tells us much more than just what does the business person say they need. The use case tells us who are they, what do they need, when do they need it, where do they need it, why do they need it, and how. And frankly, as silly as it is to say you have to ask the five W's, you really do, because what you may not know is Joy doesn't just want something to cover the immediate emergency. she also wants something to submit the PTO request for her so that she doesn't have to worry about this tomorrow while she's still trying to catch up from being out for the day. She also, in her organization, she actually has to tell her manager when she's going to be out because her manager's a big micromanager. And so it's not enough to just put the out of office message. She also has to tell that person. So in her world, she has to either send that person a text, a Skype message, maybe a Teams message, maybe they've modernized, in addition to the out of office. So the point being, while business tells you this is my requirement, you have to consider what aren't they telling me? For any of you who dabble on the sales side, I promise you, your customers are going to say, this is what I need to be able to do. That's not what you're going to sell them. You're going. So you really have to be able to find a way to dig in with them to understand what is it they really mean when they say, I need to be able to send this out. So the story, this was so great. So I was recording I was recording a video with Dux Raymond Sy. He's an MVP and regional director. And I did it again. I'm looking at her face and I feel terrible because I can't remember her name. Oh my gosh.
And this other amazing person.
Another amazing person whose name I forget, and I'm sorry. Okay, so we're recording the session, and she's talking about Power Apps and the power of Power Apps for the individual. You often hear the phrase citizen developer. And I was asking, because Power Apps was new to me, I hadn't really played with it at all. I said, so tell me like a use case for the common person for Power Platform. Like, why is the citizen developer is great? You can develop mission critical solutions, but why is it important for me as an individual? Right. And she said, well, let me show you something. And she pulled up her phone and she showed me on her phone, Melissa Hubbard. Woo! I'm sorry, Melissa, that I forgot your name.
I'm going to tell her.
I know. Anyway, she pulled up her phone and she pointed at the Power App, at the icon on her phone. She went, this is a shortcut to a very simple form that I created. And I went, all right, what's it do? It says I'm going to be out of the office. I'm like, okay, what does it do from there? She goes, well, on the back end, the flow turns on my out of office. So all I did was push the button and it turns on my out of office and says, for internal use, something came up and I'm not going to be in the office. And she could have added more so that it customized it. Sure. Then it sent a message to her management chain so they knew she was not going to be there. And then it looked at all the meetings in her calendar and said, or sent messages to all those meeting organizers and said, I'm not going to be able to make this meeting today. And the point being, it goes through and does all these different things that Joy's requirement of I need an emergency out of office solution did not tell us she needed to do. But once we sat down and looked at and started developing a use case, well, what do you need it to do? And then what? And then what? And who does it need to contact and why? These start to tell us what is it actually as a solution have to accomplish. I need to stop talking.
No, I think you're doing great. So this goes from requirements to use case. And to do use case, we do discovery. So it's not just what do we need to happen, right? Hey, I have a workflow. I have an easy workflow. How many times have you heard that lie? This is what needs to happen. Okay, but how? When? What's our outcome need to be? Who's going to be involved, right? There's always a lot more to it. So, I mean, who remembers in school we were learning about how to write like investigative stories or something like that, right? We learned the who, where, what, when, why, and how. Mm-hmm. That's exactly the tools we need to sit down and do discovery to build the use case. Not just what do you need, but who needs to use it? Who needs to get the notification or approval? Who's going to consume it? You know, what do you need? What does the outcome need to be? What does success look like? What
Yes.
other systems need to be brought in? What are going to be the impacts for those systems? When does this need to happen? When is it going to be triggered? When do we know it's complete? Right?
Can I add to this too? One of the
Yeah.
things I've learned, so I've been in IT for 24 years. And so maybe it's a little bit more than 5 years with this beard. But one of the things I learned most recently on the sales side of the house is, what is the negative repercussion of this not happening?
Mm.
Like, if you really
Mhm.
want to talk about success criteria, you got to understand, like, hey, if this doesn't work, what's going to happen to the business? What's going to happen to you as an individual, to your team, to your project? Because now we can start to dig into not just the positive side, but the prioritization. Like, you
Yeah.
just told me these 5 things are the most important, but when we look at the negative repercussions, this is the one that's going to put us out of business. Maybe we should focus here first.
Okay.
Opportunity cost. Excellent question. Yes. So hopefully we gave you guys a few more thoughts on what you can do here. We're going to switch things up a little bit.
Ooh.
I am the business now, and I need to share content outside of my company. Please solve my problem.
Ooh. Now, I think this is probably pretty common, right? We're IT. If you're our business representative on our session today, you got stuff and you need to share it with other people that aren't in your organization. They're not on your team. They're not down the hall. Right? Again, feel free to unmute, go to chat, raise a hand if you want to, follow the rules. You don't have to follow the rules. Here we go. Send an email with an attachment. How dare you?
Yes, I tried to send an email with an attachment, and my 300 slide PowerPoint was too big.
Oh, okay,
Ooh,
okay. Oh, very common. What type of information? PII, or is there anything sensitive or confidential in that? Fantastic.
yes. I actually, employee salaries are in the worksheet I'm sharing because I'm sending this to a recruiting firm who are going to bring in some new people.
Okay. So I just heard there was a business justification for it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Do you want to send a link to view the material? Should the link expire? Oh,
Ooh,
against our
that's
policy.
great. Yes, this contract with the recruiter is only for the next 30 days, so I absolutely want it to expire. And because it's such sensitive information, they can look at it, but they can't download it.
So they can look at it. They can't download it. Should they have read access or edit as well? So I think as she was typing, you answered that question. So
Yep.
download, view only. Okay. So what do we think our solution needs to be, IT team? And I love the fact we have a whole team working on this right now.
Dropbox.
Jake says Dropbox.
Listen, Jake from State Farm, you are fired.
You and your red polo.
No, but that's great. So you've given me an option, and frankly, it probably has all of the requirements I've given you. And so that's a prime example of where we also need to look at external factors. What is the organization licensed for? Do we already have a solution like Dropbox or Microsoft 365? And if so, we've determined that guest access is not allowed, but maybe this is a reason to turn it on for key teams, right?
Mm.
I like that. If there's an area within SharePoint that can have an email address whitelisted, we can set up permission trim document or document library. That's perfect. That's exactly the kind of thinking. Now that we've gotten the requirements, not only can we start solutioning, but we can start justifying why we're changing policy to be able to enable this. Very good.
And Andrea, we're not licensed for OneDrive if there is a solution there. So a lot of times we see SharePoint implementations where anonymous that has the expiration on the link, things like that aren't turned on. So you could do that from OneDrive, maybe not SharePoint. I'm a big fan of the SharePoint solution though, because this is a official company property. It really shouldn't be locked in an individual
Right.
OneDrive, in my opinion, right? So setting this up in a library on a SharePoint site, so we know that SharePoint site is a security boundary. We put the permissions there that are in place. We can make sure that that content is labeled appropriately so that we have the right policies on it. Mwah, beautiful,
Yes. Yes.
beautiful.
We are not allowed to share. So, Andrea, we're not allowed to share externally from SharePoint yet. We are very early in our implementation. Amen. And that's fine because maybe SharePoint isn't going to be the right location, but now you have justification to either ask for a policy change or seek funding for a third-party tool that might enable you to do what you need to do for this particular use case. The
Mhm.
key being that we've gotten enough information, we've defined the use case in such a way that we can use it for those kinds of justifications. All right.
What else we got? This is so fun. When are we going to do this one in person, Jay?
I know, I really want to.
Okay.
Yes, so you'd have to do research here. So Benjamin, you're
Yes.
absolutely right. You need to look into the system and figure out what's enabled, what's disabled, and then start to document that right alongside the use case in helping to define the potential solution. So and Michaela, I'm glad that you are here as the non-technologist
Yes.
trying to help in this
Killing it.
conversation. All right. So Joy, for one-off solutions, maybe the use case was enough to get us a design, etc. Talk to me a little bit, or talk to us a little bit about when you might need to do a little bit more digging.
So let's pretend, and Andrea, I believe you said you're early in your SharePoint implementation, right? Having some of these conversations up front are good. Sometimes we've been using SharePoint for a while and it's time to fix things, or we realize there is a need for some automation, or we've got these complicated processes right now and everybody fills out their Word document and then some poor soul has to put it all together into one master document, and we're tired of living that life and things need to be better. There are a lot of people involved, right? We could come up with a lot of different scenarios. But one of the best things that we as IT can do, and that the business can invest some time in, is to let a representative IT, it might be a business analyst, it might be a technical resource and a more analytical resource, to come right along, to sit down, have a focus group conversation. It doesn't literally have to be a whole day. I
Mhm.
actually am trying to wire up an on-site engagement now, yay, to sit down and have 4 to 6 focus group conversations with representatives from 4 to 6 business areas for a customer. Literally, each one of those will be about an hour, maybe a smidge over, depending on how great the conversation goes. What do you do every day?
Mm.
What's working really well for you? Right? So
Mhm.
they're like, oh man, we answer a lot of emails. We get so much email. Oh, okay. Is that email mostly from inside of your organization, outside, or a little bit of both? Okay, a little bit of both. Are you sending information out of oh, you are. Are they read only, or are you working together on stuff? Right? You just kind of start going down those trails, having the conversations. I love to ask people, what's the most frustrating thing at work that you have to deal with, other than your coworkers can't help you with that?
Fish in the
But
microwave.
I had a coworker that would cook eggs in the kitchen
Oh,
microwave.
oh
It was
no.
bad. But
Oh.
anyway, I can't fix that. But ask, what are the things where it's like, it's 2022.
Mhm.
Computers are supposed to be smart. What dumb processes do you have that we could talk about and explore, right? Just opening up to those conversations. Let's say you don't have any big projects on your agenda right now. You probably do, but let's pretend you don't. Wow. Wouldn't it be awesome if IT just kind of went and said, hey, we see that you guys have help desk tickets quite a bit doing blah, blah, blah. Could we just come talk with you and see how we could make your life better?
Yeah. Now, on the flip side, and this is something that many organizations, especially small businesses, are dealing with Microsoft 365, which is that scale for a small business, scale is often hard. And we may not have staff that can go spend the day doing this. And in fact, to that organization that I was talking about earlier, who didn't have BAs, they're technologists who are project to project to project to project and supporting Exchange and SharePoint and supporting everything on tech. They don't have time for this kind of stuff. So this is not something you're going to do every single time. But yeah, it's definitely the kind of thing where if you're getting a big request, you got to sit down with your leadership and say, we're getting this information, and we can start developing a solution right now. But there's a 20% chance, there's a 50% chance that we're going to develop the wrong thing if we don't really sit down and dig into this. So the leadership does have to sit down and figure out what risk are we willing to take that we're developing the wrong solution, and how much investment should we put into making sure we're doing the right one. Which, if we go back to that conversation about Waterfall, I could have a whole section of slides on this. If you can do a more iterative approach, and this is what I love about Power Platform, is if you can do like a POC of, oh, I heard you say this, we developed these 5 use cases, you've agreed to the use cases, here's a quick solution on what might be good to solve use case 1. You said it was your highest priority. We pushed this out. How does this work for you? Now, I didn't use any external databases. I didn't serialize anything. I recognize that if 100 people come to this form at the same time, we might lose data. But this is a proof of concept. This is making sure we're going down the right path. Now it's my responsibility that once I've gotten feedback to expand on that, to make it more of an enterprise solution. But because we did enough to experiment, to get validation that we're going down the right path, the chance of failure 6 months from now is smaller, or the chance of what fails is a smaller thing. So it's really important to take that kind of approach, and make sure you're really understanding what's important to be successful. And while you're doing that, like, who do you interview? So we do, I do a lot of governance workshops, advisory workshops. We go into an organization that's looking at a new tool, and we talk to them about, like, what do you need this tool to do? Well, IT knows what they need it to do, and security knows what they need it not to do, and legal knows what they need it to do. And this person over here knows what they need it to do, but does this person represent just their needs, or do they represent a section of the business? And so one of the things that when I'm working with an organization to define which 6 to 10 people should come to my workshop, I'm helping them understand what a representative stakeholder is. That is somebody who doesn't just represent their needs, but maybe they have a pulse on the business because they're the early adopter type who like to fidget. Maybe they represent. This is one of my favorites. At Booz Allen Hamilton, if you wanted to know what the VPs and the C-suite was thinking, you went to their executive admins. That as a stakeholder group The executive admins knew what was bothering leadership
They know
better than
everything.
anybody else. And
Everything.
so exactly. So figuring out this concept of a representative stakeholder to dig into what's working, what are your pain points, what do you need to be able to do, what's the wish list of what's the number one wish you hear people complain they wish was solved. It's that concept of representative stakeholders. You don't have to interview 25,000 people. You might be able to interview 20 and still get a really good pulse on what's going on. Just as one example.
So knowing what's needed is half the battle, right?
Mhm.
G.I. Joe, knowing is half the battle. The other half is lasers, and we don't really have the time or the resources to get into that today.
Mm.
But again, the people, the situation, we need to be able to share information. Okay, thank you, Jay. We're sharing information. Or are we sharing with everyone in the organization? Are we sharing outside of the organization? Right? The answer really dictates the solution. Who's sharing? Just a small group? Everybody? The whole wide world? Well, SharePoint doesn't do that anymore. So how are we going to fix it?
Mhm.
Having the conversation. It's valuable. Plus, the title of our session is how to win friends, right, in the business. By having those conversations, you're building that relationship. Because if we go back, Jay, is it too much trouble to go back to the ITAS slide?
Absolutely not. Boom.
Why is ITAS?
Sorry, you wanted this one?
I mean, I'm never going to be upset about why is ITAS, but administration, technical support, communication is one of those roles, right? But we're really delivering IT as a service, right? We want to have a really good relationship with the people that we work with throughout service industries. If I'm at a restaurant and my server is being really great, I'm going to have a much better experience if I have a good relationship with that person. If I'm on an airplane, I want to have a really good relationship with the people that are basically helping me through this flight, right? IT is a service role in the industry. I want to have a good relationship with my doctor and my internet service provider, right? So the more we build up those relationships, the better we get. And we know now that the business is there to partner with us. And we've seen a lot of chat today, which I love. I can't wait to go back and
This
read through
chat
this
has been amazing.
from start to finish. They know there's a prize attached at the end. There are a lot of offerings inside of Microsoft 365. It's hard to keep up. It's hard to know. It's our job to do the best we can, right? And to be prepared and to be informed and to serve the organization. But imagine from finance's perspective, HR's perspective, safety, they have their whole other role and they're subject matter experts in their fields. They can't possibly stay up to date on everything they need to know and know all the things. So as we see bite-sized chunks, as someone said, it's impossible to keep up. It's impossible to keep up. There are times I see an email come out or I see on Twitter, like, what? That shipped? Really? You got to go catch up. But if you stay open to those streams of information, get the emails, subscribe to the blogs, the product team blogs, Twitter,
Mhm.
Twitter. I know, I'm sorry, but don't follow people you don't like.
I
And
will say I had a conversation with someone about Twitter this morning where I said, look, if you want to speak at events like this, you need to you need to follow people who also speak at events like this so that you see when they are speaking, because they're going to post. One of my Joy posts a lot of our applications for the call for speakers, and you'll see Joy post every time, I just applied for this. The call for speakers is open. So I will say Twitter is overwhelming the fire hose of, I'm going to call it data because it's not all information, the fire hose of data that exists there. But if you follow a dozen people who teach the types of things you want to learn, you will learn from them. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And I mean, social media has pros and cons.
Mhm.
You're in control of all of it. I tell you what, I have a technical Twitter account and I follow Jay and Michelle and probably other people that are on here whose names are popping out at me right now. I follow people on Twitter because I learn from them and I find out what's happening when. You can absolutely follow me, Shannon. Heck yeah. We'll actually have our contact information at the end if Jay remembered to build that slide.
I built it.
But you can get so much from there to help you stay up to date, to help you know what's happening when. And I know I kind of went down a side path here, but it's hard to keep up. Don't feel that you have to roll out to the business or announce to the business everything as it becomes available. In fact, you probably shouldn't.
Mm.
But when the big things hit, like when the Hub to Hub Association thing rolled out, I was there. I was ready because I had customers waiting for it.
Yep.
But other than that, but I knew they were waiting for it because I've had the conversations, right? Keep your finger on the pulse. If you're in IT, the organization is your customer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the big, with IT as a service, you are now a service provider, which is a ship Joy stocked very well. Your customer, you are in sales, and your customer is the business. So you're absolutely right. Like, you have to talk to them. You have to have a customer success approach to things if you want them to be successful. Now, I mentioned this earlier. I forgot that I had it in here, so I feel a little bit better that knowing that it's there. But you have to consider different types of approaches to deployment. There is waterfall, that concept that I talked about oh so nostalgically at the beginning here. There's agile, which is a very structured approach to 3 or 6 week sprints of deploying information. There is just the idea of get it out and we'll see what happens, and it's less structured and just ship it. Okay, well maybe we find a middle ground, but still, you have to build relationships across different business areas, not just the friend that you have over in this group, but other groups as well, to make sure that you are meeting business across the organization, business needs across the organization. And really, so IT is always going to come against the funding conversation. One of the questions that was asked here a little while ago there was, I don't have money for consulting. I'm not surprised. Nobody does. So what you do is you find a quick win. You reduce use of a tool down to something that you now have, there's now budget. And maybe what you do is you make a deal with leadership. Hey, if I save $100, can I use 50 of that to find another $100 to save? And what you'll find is that kind of a negotiation, the first thing, you find that easy thing and you work your way through developing your own budget by solving problems and proving the value. And then, of course, you want to streamline skill sets. So listen, Microsoft is never going to be the best at everything. I'm not even going to pretend that's the case. In fact, when I was at Booz Allen Hamilton, I was not a SharePoint consultant. I was a technology analyst. And my job was to have a tool chest and to go into an organization and spend 3 months and understand their needs and understand what they had licenses for and to help them streamline use of the tools they had already to solve problems. So some of what you are going to do is use the best of what's available.
Yes.
But one of the reasons Microsoft is so successful, and we have until 5, right? we're not out of time yet.
Eastern, yes.
Oh, yes. Another 23 minutes of whatever hour that is in your time zone.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
One of the reasons Microsoft is so successful with Microsoft 365 is the concept of streamlining skill sets.
Mhm.
You don't have to know Java and .NET and PHP and R and Python. You can streamline your skill sets and still get a lot of what you're trying to accomplish done with less breadth. Less breadth? Yes. Less depth. Anyway, hopefully that made sense. I'm gonna stop.
I think what Jay is trying to say, less stuff
Less
that
stuff.
you have to know how to do. So I was having a conversation with a client. It was right before we closed and signed the contract for my company to build their intranet, do the implementation. We'd done the discovery and built our use cases. And they've been hit hard. They're a retail company. So the last few years have been very, very difficult for them, and they've really had to triage in quite a different few areas of their business. And the IT rep said to me very honestly, and he was having a very vulnerable moment. He said, my biggest concern with rolling this out is that our users latch onto it so much that I then have to find people to support it. And I can't do that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have the people to support it. But his solution was to go get along with it another third-party tool to do the automation instead of Power Automate, the Power Platform. It's going to go do a third-party automation tool to bring in. And he's like, that way people don't have to learn Power Automate. I was like, oh, okay, so you already have people on staff that know how to use this tool. No. I said, okay, so does your purchase then include support and creation of the workflows? We'll have to ask. So we really have to think about these things. We have to think about them very carefully. We have to be willing to have the conversation too. So when we go to our business, right, to our internal customers, and so we have a solution, and if they're legitimately concerned, we can't figure out how to support that.
Yeah.
Does that also means, does our IT department have the bandwidth to continue to support it as well? Because remember, we're not in a ship it and forget it mode anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely these conversations we have to have.
Are you telling me that we didn't just cross the finish line?
I'm saying that there is success to be had, but
All right. So some things you need to do to ensure success, not just finish line, right? And Andrea, I there is no finish line. You're not wrong.
you're not
You have
wrong.
to advertise. You have to create a communication plan of what have we accomplished? What are we deploying? Not just what have we accomplished, but what are we about to accomplish? So this is part of, if you're going to try and change the old dog's process and teach them new tricks, you need to tell them what you're going to do. Then you need to tell them what we did. And now you need to tell them why we did it and how it's going to improve their life. What value, what does it offer? And and how do they use it? And you probably need to tell them how they use it multiple times. So advertising is a huge part of being successful after you get to the traditional finish line.
And this is near and dear to me. Go talk to your help desk. One thing that frustrates me, I spent a period of time as a MindSharp trainer many moons ago. Rarely did I have individuals sit SharePoint training from the help desk. When I became a consultant, and would be consulting on implementations and rolling things out, rarely was the help desk included.
Mm-hmm.
But the help desk is your first line of defense.
Yeah.
against the rest of the business. Sorry, business. Sorry, I don't mean that in a bad way.
Yep.
Right? Talk to the help desk because they know, your exec admins know, your help desk knows what's going on everywhere. What are people asking for? What are people having trouble with? And you can go, oh, wow, HR put in 12 tickets in the last 6 months because people on the other side of email couldn't open an attachment.
Yep.
There's a story right
Now,
there.
You want to talk about finding money to do this right?
Money. Yes.
Go find out what help desk is spending most of their time on. Find out the top five things the help desk spends time on. If you can solve one of them, you just found money, guaranteed. So these are different ways and the different reasons why you would engage the help desk.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then I mentioned this phrase before. You've got to iterate, and there's a chat going on right now about pit stops and milestones and long slogs. That phrase, by the way, long slog. Anyway, you have to iterate. Microsoft 365 is not a deploy and move on. Why? Because 2 months from now, there will be new capabilities that if you are not educated on, your users will become educated on, or worse yet, they won't be educated. They'll just use them. There will be new capabilities that will solve business problems. There will be new capabilities that don't matter to you. You know what? Viva is an amazing tool set. But if you're a 10-person shop, you probably don't care about Viva Analytics. In fact, they might not even be helpful because there are so few of you. So you got to know what's coming so you can determine, do I even turn this capability on? Or better yet, because of how Microsoft does things, do I turn this capability off?
Yes. I just recorded a whole, it was supposed to be an hour. We went over an hour and a half. 3 people, me, 2 others on my team, just about the sharing settings on links.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you. I adore how Microsoft is working very hard to bring consistency. So no matter where you click to share, you're getting the exact same experience.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. But should we be able to share content from SharePoint anonymously?
Right.
You don't like that at all. I see you, Shannon. Well, what happens if we're sharing from a team site, right? A private team site, and we're sharing with specific people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or anyone in the organization. What's happening to my permissions there? I'm making a hot mess out of them. That's what's happening, right? But the users don't know if we don't tell them. I didn't know for sure until a few months back. I just went and I clicked through every link and really did some investigation to find out what was happening. So it does take time. It takes conversation. And by the way, if we find out that people on a private team are sharing files outside of the team repetitively over and over and over, red flag, flag on the
Yep.
play. What's happening, right? That's an opportunity for a conversation. Risk, nightmare. Yes, right? But it's an opportunity for a conversation and a solution. Yay. We love
Yep.
opportunity. Now what, Jay?
Well, we did not create a conclusion slide, Joy. And I was trying to scramble one together there, but you stopped talking, so I stopped. So, in conclusion, we threw a lot at you. And in our next session that we do, there is no end. Ain't that the truth? In our next session, we will try to bring it all together. But in conclusion, it is hopefully you take away from this conversation the importance and the value of communicating between IT and business, between security and legal and IT and business, because frankly, you could design all the greatest stuff in the world, but if you don't have security on your side agreeing that it's necessary, you're never going to get them to open that policy up. And if you don't get legal to say, actually, it is allowed, we're okay with that, and here's how we're protected, then no one's going to take the risk to do the new thing. So communication across these stakeholder groups, the development of use cases, not just hearing the business tell you what their requirement is, and the realization that once you've deployed this, there's still so much to do.
Yes.
If you walk away with any of those in your repertoire after today, I will consider this a success. That's it.
So we did intentionally leave time for questions, but we've been having amazing conversations as we go through. But let's talk about it. We can unmute, we can
please.
do chat. Let's conversate. And I mean, I'm even willing to ask before you fill out the survey. What do you think? Did we find this useful? Did we take anything away? Did we learn anything new? I mean, I know it was hilarious and entertaining. That's actually what Jay and I specialize in, is hilarity and entertainment.
It's one of the reasons I love presenting with you, because it's never boring. Shannon doesn't think I talk enough. Oh God. That's not a good sign.
That means I talk too much.
Or I didn't. She's being kind. I'd be curious. Did anyone hear something outright new? And especially if you didn't agree with it, I'd love to hear.
Yes. And Michelle did just put the survey in there. Please, 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 please fill out the survey.
I can kind of touch on that as well. If there's no other questions, we can maybe go ahead and pick a winner. I just want to read one really nice comment in the chat though. Best session today, not just because it was entertaining, learned things and made some new contacts. You guys were absolutely fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And apparently my dogs got excited when I clapped. Stuff happened.
Yes.
Now,
and
baby.
On my end too, I have been kind of taking note and put people's contact info into a little random generator and selected a winner. And our winner is Benjamin. I don't know how to say your last name.
Oh. That's great. Benjamin, I think he actually pulled himself out of the running because he won earlier.
Oh, shoot. But I think you can win. Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Ben. Let me try a new person then. That's okay. Here, let me click the button. It looks like it is Andrea Zenner.
Yay.
Perfect.
Yay.
Andrea, do you want to drop your email in the chat for me?
Congratulations, Andrea.
Yes, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Oh, here's another nice comment. Good to be reminded of why instead of just the new tools that keep coming. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Andrea. We'll have our team contact send that over to you. We really appreciate it.
Yes. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for the input, the feedback. Be on the lookout. We'll review the feedback that you give us in the survey, because I know you're going to fill out the survey. Yes. And this may get expanded into like a full day workshop offering. That would be so fun.
Oh my.
Yes, please take the survey if you'd like the chance to win. And honestly, it just helps us as a board keep perfecting on what we've built, adding incredible sessions like this. And I know many of you attend the monthly sessions as well, but it helps tailor the content for that as well. So thank you guys all so much. We really appreciate your time. And I know this is the last session of the day, so it's been a long and probably exciting day with lots of new content for you guys to take back to your organizations and really keep building on what you've already built.
Yeah. Kate, thank you and the board for
Yes.
having us and for putting this day together. I mentioned earlier, I help run the M365 Chicago. We do
Yes.
60-minute sessions. I loved this longer format. So thank you for giving us a chance
Yes.
to talk a little bit more. Joy and I hate talking. So
It's just so hard to do.
right. But
Hal
no,
did
really,
it
thank you
yesterday.
guys.
Thank you, Hal. And Michelle, thank you. This is always such a great event. You and your team do an amazing job. Kate, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And thank you all for the kind words. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
This has honestly been one of the best chats like I've seen in a
Ever.
virtual session
Mhm.
in years. So
But the
all right.
questions are fun too throughout because it just livens and tailors the conversation to best suit the audience. So thank you guys so much for being so active today.
Yes, it's fantastic. At the end of the day, too.
Yeah, it's Friday.
Wow.
Go enjoy your weekends.
Yeah.
They were talking about drinks later. It might be about time for one of those.
It is about time for one of those.
Joy, you can have it in your new Yeti mug. Perfect.
Look at that. Isn't that
You're
gorgeous?
welcome.
Great. Yes. Thank you so much.
They look great.
Best stuff. All right. Well, I'll hang on for the next few minutes. Jay
Yep.
probably will too. If anyone has questions, you want to just hang out and chat. That's what we're here for. We can make sure you get those surveys filled out.
Thank you guys. End recording.
This is the best way to end the week too.